Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm really excited to host ABWCI Dialogue today and with my very close friend and ambassador of ABWCI. ABWCI is a virtual global chamber of commerce for women working towards social and economic empowerment of women entrepreneurs. We are one of its kind, world's largest platform for women across the world, and we are virtual. Our mission is to establish a collaborative ecosystem to engage, network, identify, and leverage market opportunities globally. And I'm so excited that, as we are talking and discussing and we are hosting this webinar for our members and participants from world, for this entire thinking of how we are growing every day. And this is excitement is really magical. And I'm very happy to see that I'm getting emails from across the world from institutions, universities, incubators, accelerators, women associations, and they're joining us to see that there is so much traction happening from across the world. Our vision is to nurture and provide an enabling environment for women in business to build a sustainable and better future. As we are talking, we are in 27 countries, which means that we have country presidents in 27 countries and database in 40 countries. ABWCI Dialogue was conceived last year to share views and the feedback and talking to leaders across the world who are working in the whole ecosystem to build community of our women entrepreneurs. We have really learned a lot from our ambassadors, from country presidents, from our guests, and to see that, how we can make this a collaborative ecosystem. As you all know, and I've been talking about it, women face four large challenges. Access to finance means that financial resources are very limited. And women from the other side of it have huge issues accessing those funds. So investors. So that's one of the biggest pillars, or you can say the challenges faced by women. Second is access to technology. And today, definitely we'll be talking to Frits on the whole issue of how we will be working on the whole access to technology and imbibing technology into the whole, businesses for women. Third is access to market. As the complexities are growing, shrinking global space and shrinking of markets, the huge issue is to identify, how globally we can find markets as such. And the fourth is the countries having problems in identifying the ecosystem, a collaborative ecosystem to work together. So with these challenges, I'm very, very happy to present Frits today. And Frits is our ambassador, ABWCI ambassador, a renowned personality. Just to talk about Frits, he's a global community builder, a person with passion, bringing people together in digital age. He has initiated and helped run a number of international communities focused on linking information technology, innovation, impact, and he is a coach, a program director, which supports organization on business and community building. To talk more, and he will be talking about, his work, I'm very excited that Frits, you could join today, and we will be talking about so many things, and it will be free-flowing, so the floor is open. So first of all, Frits, thank you for coming to this show. And this show brings in a lot of energy, experience, passion of our guest speakers. But I'm very, very happy that this entire show is going live in various parts of the world, and it's digital. It's on YouTube, it's on various social media channels, and you will see a lot of requests which will come your way, which people want to engage with you and to see how we can work together on this. But first of all, my question to you is that very few people I've seen who are professionally working on building community. How come you started doing it from your your education, your working, your qualification, and then you worked on the whole aspect about community developer or community builder as such, or a connector or a networker from that. And it will be good to know from that perspective. So that's the question we can start with, and then as the conversation go forward, we will talk about many other things.
Yeah. Well, Parul, first of all, it's my honor and great pleasure to be on this program. So very happy to share my knowledge and background. Your question is quite a big question, which will take me a couple of minutes to explain. I started, let me start. I mean, I'm educated as an engineer, so I went to a technical university and started to work for an IT startup company, allowing me to travel the world, which I enjoyed. As a sales consultant, giving a lot of training in the technology we provided. At some point, I was asked, do you want to run the computer user group of the SPE, the Society of Petroleum Engineers? And that was my very first experience in managing a professional community, and realized, hey, first of all, I like being on stage and moderating discussions. I see the benefit of bringing people together. So I did that for about 2 years, started to shift my career into information technology. So for the last 30 plus years, I've consistently worked in the IT industry in various roles. At a certain point, I was looking for a new position, and I saw an opening for the role of alliance manager at a company called Cambridge Technology Partners, which was at the time a Fortune E50 company. And I'll confess, I did not know what an alliance manager was. But I applied anyway.
Yeah.
Found out that, it's basically the person who links and brings organizations together, see if we can collaborate on projects. But not only did I not know what an alliance manager was, at a certain point, the CEO of the office of the organization came in my office and said, hey, so, hey, how are you doing as an alliance manager? And I realized he wasn't asking an operational question in the sense that he knew what was expected of an alliance manager. It was more a principal question. He just did not know what is an alliance manager and what's the added value to an organization. When I tried to explain that to him, I also realized that my fellow alliance managers, because these are normally one person for each organization, they had exactly the same experience. They had to explain to their own organization, what am I doing here? And that got me on a project let's bring alliance managers together and let's just see how we can learn and collaborate. And it was initially, oh, let's have a cup of coffee and just talk about what we're doing. It was a shoulder to cry on. They don't understand what I am. It was a little bit trying to learn from our experience. That resulted in setting up the very first chapter for alliance managers, European chapter, as part of a big American association. So it became a little bit more formal structure. And then I will get to your answer on community building.
No,
and
this is good to know, because always people, when they start and the trigger, like for example, alliance manager, this trigger was good because, it was more of looking at how you will create partnerships, collaborative ecosystem and all that. So we want to understand that, because this is a lot of these companies are fancy with fancy designations, they bring that kind of thing, but sometimes you have to go deep inside. And for my audience today, who are women entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs at SME level sometimes come to us and say, okay, we want to keep someone who can build alliances, or we want to, build. And this is good understanding. So carry on with this.
No, I'll carry on. No, but I think my point is I'm very conscious of the fact that I grew into roles rather than it was an epiphany. Now I have to do this. So I became the alliance manager of an organization called Staffware. Now, I won't ask the audience, does anybody know the company Software? I'm assuming the vast majority would say no, never heard of the company, which I understand. But if you're responsible for marketing and alliances and nobody knows who you are, you have to be creative. But then about 3 months in the job, I saw the very first analyst report from Gartner on the technology we provided, which was business process management software. We were in the magic leader quadrant. And this means, for the people who do not know Gartner, that means you are very much on the top of your game. Mm. That was one of the few moments in my life I had an epiphany, in the sense that, hey, we are already giving the right answer, but nobody was asking the question, what's BPM? So rather than trying to sell you could say, rather than competing with my competitors, I took a leap of faith almost. I went to my competitors and said, hey, I would like to set up a business process management forum. And you know what? I will organize it and I will let you speak as my competitor. Probably within a month, the CTO of Stafford wanted to fire me on the spot when he found out that this is not happening. The CEO said, hey, there's something interesting going on here. I don't understand, but let's see what happens. But in about a year and a half, in organizing discussions around the benefit of BPM, our competition was not other BPM vendors. Our competition was other philosophies, how we can help organizations. And that resulted over a year and a half. First of all these other competitors had to pay to be on the stage. I was paid as the chair to be on stage moderating events. Everybody knew I worked for Software, and in about a year, 2 years, we had the market state. It's obvious that a thought leader like Software would take initiative to set up a BPM forum.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit longer route, but it paid off in the end greatly, because we've been able to set up the BPM forum around Europe and even in Australia. And now I come to the community part, because in Australia, I was giving a keynote and a 2-day BPM conference. I gave my presentation on the first day about business process management. Organization asked, hey, can you do a second keynote tomorrow? Because one of the other keynote dropped out. So, well, sorry, I just gave my keynote, so don't have any material. But we had about 150 people in the room, all experts, who potentially were going to be a member of that Australian BPM forum.
Yeah.
And said, well, I have in the back of my pocket, I have some ideas on how we can develop a community. So why don't I take the audience along how to create a, you could say, the local BPM community. And I turned that experience in a small blog in 2009, I believe, 8 or 9. And I realized that for me, it is about managing a business process community is managing a process. So for me, all of a sudden it became clear, managing an alliance, managing a business process are two ends of the same stick. And I've noticed that the lessons, how you build a community, apply for both, also looking at an alliance or looking at a business process, is getting people connected who do not have a hierarchical relationship.
Yes, and both are important, because one is giving, I'm saying so much of network opportunity on this, because when you started, this community was missing, but you have then formed this into a community, because I also believe there is no competition. This is only collaboration and partnerships with everyone. Yeah,
that's the mindset. The minute you assume you're going to collaborate in a community, there are a couple of observations, and once you see it, there's no way you can see differently. But then all of a sudden, competition doesn't exist anymore, because everybody has a unique proposition, because people are unique. So you will have a unique role in that community. But what completely solidified the fact that I was onto something, because I set up the one community with one professor from one university and community with a professor from another university. A year later, one moved to the same university, to the same building. So I reached out to them, say, guys, you should have a cup of coffee. And
that's the difficult part, Frits. Many of our, the community, they sometimes are together, but they do not have, they don't come as frankly to say, okay, let's have a coffee. Because what happens is, this is what a learning for all my, participants and audience today is to say that sometimes don't be afraid to ask and say, okay, let's go and let's have coffee to discuss how we can learn from each other. And this is really important. And you have to also talk more about,
I will talk more, because it was a very significant lesson there. I was disappointed and elated eventually when they came back to me. They had a cup of coffee and they were they were exploring their differences. Yeah, alliance management is something completely different than business process management. And then I realized we've grown up in a world where we value unique value propositions, where we value what sets us apart. And one of the things which is critical in building a good community is to ask, what do we have in common? And so asking the question, what do you have in common, sometimes means that the people don't see it. Now, I'd like to ask the audience to think about a circle and a square. And I'll make it rhetorical because I can't get the answers right now. I'm assuming that most people will assume they're different. But if you take a glass, from one end is a circle, from the other end is a square. So it's different perspectives, the same content. So community management is looking at what you have in common, and sometimes you need a little bit of help to get over that hurdle, because sometimes people don't realize you have something in common.
Yes, definitely.
And so having something in common for me is one of the key elements of successfully building a community. And the other part, which I've come to recognize, that was both valid for the community on alliance management and valid for the community on business process management. Nobody was asking that question yet. So by identifying a unique question, I was able to get people behind that question, and everybody was interested. Okay, what's the answer? And then you have that very strange awareness that I would never claim I'm an expert in BPM. I would never claim I'm an expert in alliance management. I was just interested to find out what it means and how I can learn from that. I was just curious. But by by leading that question, people assume you are the thought leader on that particular topic.
And it's also, you caught it quite new, because the thing is, when you're talking about the whole concept is when this whole, partnership development, institutional development, community development, alliance is new, and it has come last decade, or you can say last decade. And from there, we have moved where, we have spoken about multi-stakeholder platforms. We have spoken about the whole issue of networks and all those kinds of things. So how did you manage in terms of transition from, creating alliances, then creating a network? Because you are also associated with YPOs, you are also associated with the CTO forum and many others as such. And now with us as ABWCI, because a lot of women entrepreneurs today want to understand from you that this entire thinking of creating this kind of community, how does this work? And that's really important for us.
Yeah, okay. The transition was gradual, in the sense that at a certain point, I did take the initiative to set up a community for the Dutch government, for the Dutch members of parliament, information technology to their focus. Then you get a request, hey, do you want to be a member of the largest CIO community in the world and drive that? And so over time, you start to, well, collect, for lack of a better word, but you start to realize you're working on a lot of communities. And I was always, that started like in 2008, curious how it works and why it works. So I wasn't just doing, I was predominantly just doing it, operating it, and or organizing events, but at the same time, continuously checking out why is it working, what works and what. So try to be consciously aware of what happens. So the shift from the topic in all those communities started to gradually go from the topic to the process. How do you get people connected? Because then you start to realize there is a pattern you start to recognize in each individual community, and that boils down to a number of very, I believe, simplistic lessons learned of, okay, what works. So again, unique question. You need somebody to look at what you have in common. And then if you then look at, you could say ABWCI, also quickly realized you need a diverse and inclusive team, specifically diverse team. I always use the metaphor of field hockey. I'm still an active field hockey player. I'm a goalie. And so when I talk about community building, I showed people the picture of my field hockey team. And I'm there in my goalie kit. And this is a true story. I once was in a team where one of the people, when we had a penalty corner against us, he was the European managing director of a very big consultancy firm, and the other one was a big banker. So when I asked the audience, hey, is that relevant? No, it's not relevant. No, our objective at that moment is to get the ball out of our court in the other guy's courts.
Correct.
So it was a realizing a couple of things. When you form a community, what your role is in another field, in a lot of cases, may not be relevant. Let's put it that way. It could be relevant, but it may not be relevant. And if we have 11 goalies, we're not going to win a game. We're not going to lose a game. We're not going to win a game. If we have 11 strikers, it's not. So you need a diverse team to work together. And so for me, it was a good metaphor to realize the need for diversity, the need for inclusivity. And if I'm a minority in my own household, I'm married and I have 2 daughters. And once you realize that the biggest minority we have in the world is women, then I realize, hey, I might be able to do something about that. And so it started me on this journey of, okay, how can we then make the world a little bit more inclusive and because it's diverse, and realize there's so much proof out there that if you have a diverse team, it's going to be better. And I also have, I think this is serendipity, but the benefit of having worked in IT for 30 years, that I can also bring in the dimension of what the impact is of digital technology. The fact that you and I are talking to each other, the fact that people around the world could be watching this, digital technology makes this happen.
And that's another question which I wanted to ask is that, when we talk about access to technology, and you spoke about technology, where I see a lot of when we talk to women entrepreneurs, they say that we use technology. But, one is use of technology and use of technology in business. They're two, different aspects as such. We have technology, for example, all have mobile phones, you have technology. You use laptops, you use the different forums to all that. But how will you imbibe technology in the businesses to improve the processes, to improve the efficiency and the so how do you think that is shaping up?
No doubt about it. I mean, the World Economic Forum talks about the fourth industrial wave. We do see a cyber-physical world developing at the moment. What I also see, and that's, I think, why also this community is so relevant, that in my view, we're shifting from a command and control to a connect and collaborate world.
Yes.
From silos to networks.
Yes.
Very much digitally enabled. And if you've grown up in a world where success is being king of your empire, being part of that command and control structure, digital technology is very disruptive, as it's changing the way you do business. It's changing your business model. It's changing your position. And I've noticed over and over again for the last 10 odd years, I've been having this discussion with the leadership team. Most people in the top are men at the moment. They're scared. I'll behave myself in the words I'm going to use today, but they are scared because they realize the world is changing. It's changing where the success criteria is shifting to what do we have in common? How can we complement each other? And guess what? I believe that there's that very big minority in this world has a much better understanding about collaboration and complementing each other.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, that, the whole context is, the fear of the unknown.
Yes.
Fear of the unknown is gripping a lot of people worldwide, and they are not trying to understand that the present can also be giving them money. It is if it's giving services or products, and the business today, the business is there. Don't start only think about future and spoil your present, because that's I've been talking to so many people about this, that sometimes very, very focused to say what should we bring in the future, but the present is in the moment,
Yes.
And the thing is, future is definitely, you don't know about future. Nobody has predicted the future. We neither predicted the whole COVID situation, but we came into it and we are better off now. It's fine. Maybe the business things have changed. The way we used to talk to each other changed. We used to always, the dialogue which we are having today, we would have done it only offline. Maybe I coming to Netherlands or you coming to India or things like that. Today, we are talking, we are discussing, we are taking this forward. So this is disruptive thinking. This is disruption which is coming in, but we have to realize it. Sometimes disruption is not you can say upheaval. It is also in a smaller way. That's why it's a subtle, it's a subtle change.
It's subtle in the sense that you often don't recognize it, but at the same time, it's very significant, that change.
Yes.
Because we're now organizing value, and this requires facilitating subservient leadership. A couple of examples. I am one of the I'm a host of a show called The Brand Called You from India.
Yeah.
Which is a great show where we talk about people in role models and leadership position. And I just realized a couple of months ago, I was interviewing a lady called Indy Gregg, and she's the founder and CEO of Redo. That's an organization, a virtual organization. And she told me that as a CEO of my organization, of my startup, I do not have the people in my office. I have to trust them. But that also means I have to give them freedom to get them intrinsically motivated to do what they want, because I cannot manage them. I cannot micromanage them. So I have to let go. And that that takes an attitude change.
Yes.
If I also look, I'll give you another example of how I think the world is changing, is a company called Omdena. I met them through my work for the ITU, the International Telecom Union. They're an organization I helped a little bit when they were in the startup mode to build a community. And what they've done, it's amazing. They have now the largest community in the world of AI experts who come together to help resolve the sustainability development goals of the ITU, of the United Nations. So they use AI to resolve the SDGs.
Yeah. So which is AI for good.
Yes, this is somebody I met at the AI for Good Summit, which I'm one of the co-founders of this AI for Good movement of the outreach committee. So heavily involved in supporting the ITU there. But what I liked about what they how they approach their community of employees is when an organization comes to them and say, look, we would like you to take care of this project. Can you do this project for us? They send that project proposal, to their community, to their employees. If 200-300 people sign up, they know they got something good and they'll get the project done and people will want to work on it, because that's the question. Do you want to work on this project?
Correct.
If only like 10-15 people sign up and say, this could be interesting, they know. Now, what would a classic organization do? Hey, you're on the bench. I don't care what you're going to do that project. They now go back to the client and say, you have to rewrite your proposal because people aren't interested. They don't want to do that. So they get their client to rewrite the proposal until in the next round, enough people sign up, and then you see people. So they manage on intrinsically motivated people who want to collaborate with each other on getting the job done. And that's also one of the other lessons, I think, when building a community. In these examples, you want to be a member of a community as an individual for your own personal benefit. You are intrinsically motivated to be part. If you are asked to be in a community because your boss says so, somebody else says so, you're not a community member. That is not what, in my definition, what it means to be a member of a community.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So one or two things which Frits, I want to talk more on. One is, the whole ecosystem. Now, when you see this entire thinking about entrepreneurship, because you also know each country has entrepreneur ecosystem, and and countries are trying to build. There are also organizations like YPOs, there is CTOs, and all are trying to build. We are, as ABWCI, trying to build the whole ecosystem for entrepreneurs, and our specific focus is women entrepreneurs. So do you think things are working out in a way which is positive, or do you see that you are not happy with how it's being built? I want a frank answer from you.
Yeah. Okay. The real answer is I still need more time to really understand what's happening. So it's a little bit too early to give solid advice. But what I've seen so far is you're absolutely on the right track. You've been able to identify a unique question. You've been able to build a unique team. And when you then start to operationalize the community, you have to demonstrate tenacity because it's hard work. Because you have unique question, after step one comes step one. And what I mean by that, sometimes you do not know if you're in the right direction. So sometimes you have to go back. So you have an idea of your North Star, it's more or less that direction. But how you're going to get there, sometimes you have to backtrack a bit. So you have to be prepared for that. So you have to be a little bit patient. Because the people you want to have a member of your community, sometimes the people you're aiming for will want to check you out and say, well, let's see if they survive in a year's time, and if they're still surviving, yeah, then we'll become a member. And because some people are afraid to associate themselves to something if they don't know if it's going to be successful or not. People want to associate to success. So you have to just show tenacity. What also is very relevant for community is not only looking at what you have in common, but that also means that the people managing the community, one of the key things to do there is connect people to each other. It's very easy, and that's the classic way to think about networking, is to connect yourself to as much people as possible, so
yeah,
but connect people to each other.
And also important point, Frits, is that we need those connectors. Sometimes you need connectors to the connectors.
Yes,
because sometimes when if you are talking too much with individuals, I'm just specifying that, you know, these individuals will not come together. Maybe that, you know, the chemical reaction, you need the chemical bonding to say that chemical bonding brings in different networks. It's like a web, you know, it comes like that. And that's what is needed from a perspective when you're creating a kind of a community, which you rightly saying is that's the community which brings like a accelerated effect, not the linear effect as such.
And there's also something else which you've mentioned, which sometimes people forget. Because you do not have a hierarchical relationship with each other, you are a member on a voluntary basis.
Yeah.
It actually helps if you like each other.
Yes.
I mean, you are not going to be an effective community if you hate each other's guts. You know, well, I don't really like that person. I don't want to work with that person. So the minute I start to think about, okay, do I want to be a member of a community? If somebody gives me, asks me, hey, how would you approach that? I ask them, hey, do you visualize yourself spending the whole evening in the restaurant with that other individuals? If the answer is yes, you got a fighting chance. If the answer is no, you really want to reassess if you want to be part of that community or not. But there's also something else I think it's important to point out, Parul. Till now in my work around communities, people feel, oh, this is nice to have. This is for a community of practice, a knowledge community, whatever. But bear with me, 1 minute of theory, and then I explain to you why I feel this is so significant. In 1911, Frederick Taylor wrote his book, The Scientific Organization. He wrote a book which explained, okay, we need, in industrial era organization, we have a marketing and sales department, operation department, we have silos. That's how he described this book. In 1937, Ronald Coase wrote his law on transaction costs. Basically, the law of transaction cost states it's cheaper in the organization than outside. That's why an organization exists. What I find quite interesting, even serendipitous, that in 1991, Ronald Coase got a Nobel Prize for economics, giving the scientific proof for Frederick Taylor's ideas. It's the same year where Tim Berners-Lee sent out the first message through the hyperlinked CERN. And guess what? Because of digital technology, you can argue that the cost of communication has gone down to virtually zero.
Correct.
So you could argue that you can use the same law of Ronald Coase to explain why a lot of these siloed organizations don't have a future anymore, because, and that is for me explaining why we're shifting from this command and control to a connect and collaborate society. So from silos to networks. So
very true.
So this is why, and I believe that a community approach, because you now have to manage people on a non-hierarchical level, is going to be very significant in managing future organizations.
No, you are correct, Frits, and I'm also looking at that. in the future, I can visualize that there will be organizations which will not be operating as one. It will be an organization where there will be several organizations, but they will have a combined product. You understand what I'm saying? As that 10 organizations, but the product will be one. And it's happening on the supply chain side of it. But my thinking is it will be evident. As of now, it will not be running as on the back side of it. They will come as on the front side of say that, we don't make, product, but we are an assembly of product, or, this is, and that's what it is making, that's what the time is coming on that. So, because the time is limited, I wanted to ask, your parting, because we have spent 40 minutes together on this, and it doesn't look like, 40 minutes because we were so much ingrained into the whole conversation. I want to ask you in last few minutes, what are the things which women should do to create or to be in a community which will be fulfilling for their businesses and for them as such? It's a very wholesome question to say that if individual as women who exist in various parts of the world, which are in business, and what should they do to be one together, and also how they should, work like a community.
Okay. Wow. It's a tough question. I think to some extent, ignore the fact that women, because in my experience, the gender is not relevant for the type of work you're doing. So do not allow yourself to be put in a box or be given a label because you have a gender. I've met so many exceptional people in the world who happen to be women who are doing really, really great stuff, where being a woman is not relevant. So that's what
So you're correct. Business doesn't have a gender.
No.
Business has no gender. But the thing is that because we feel that the emphasis for next maybe couple of years or maybe few decades would be how should we create, and women can become wealth creators, not job seekers. Because my complication is a bit, different on that. Yes.
In that respect, that's also something which ties to building a community. In my experience, is focus on the content, focus on what you're trying to resolve. Money will follow. To focus on the content, also apply from, let's say, a vision on a mindset, the vision of the acronym HAIL. And HAIL stands for honesty, authenticity, integrity, love. And I believe women on average, and this is an extreme generalization, are more capable of demonstrating HAIL because honest, authenticity, integrity, and love is what you need to manage a community, because you need to motivate people intrinsically, allow them some freedom, guide them, coach them, but don't control them. That is going to be how you're going to manage a community. And I believe women in general are more capable of demonstrating that. So go for it.
Yeah. And the last question we got a question on the chat box is saying AI is poised to deliver transformational benefit in nearly every sector, including businesses for acquiring competitive intelligence, lowering cost, etc. Is there an idiot guide, or it's a guide, a simple guide online, or self-teach some principle of AI for entrepreneurs to grow their business?
Wow. Yes, there is. So what I can do is go offline and point people to some websites they can have a look at. But I'm a little bit biased, but that's also why I'm wearing the SDG pin. I'm a member, as mentioned, of the AI for Good community. And that is currently over 40 UN agencies coming together with the X Prize, with a number of big corporates. I believe the global reach is over 300,000. So you can be part of that community and you can start to educate yourself how AI can help organizations and how AI helps society. And there are loads and loads of examples. And then coming back to an earlier discussion we had, Perl, being able to develop a unique question is not related to AI, is not related to digital, but thinking about a unique question is key in this case, because if one thing ChatGPT has demonstrated us, as soon as you have a question, AI will provide you an answer.
No, I was just waiting for you to talk about ChatGPT, because that's a burning question in everybody's mind, that is ChatGPT trying to solve people's questions? If people, have so unique questions and they get some answers, I'm saying, is it right or not? That's a separate discussion to have. But well, at least it's coming out, it's churning some answers.
I think that the reality is we have such a wealth of information and knowledge in this world. It's a matter of connecting that knowledge. So what the good thing is about ChatGPT, and realize this you could view this as the internet 20, 30 years ago. And the ChatGPT we know today is not going to be the ChatGPT and its competitors in 5 or 10 years time. So this is going to explode, but it will demonstrate that knowledge, we don't have to seek knowledge in a Wikipedia. No, we just ask the question and it will be presented to us. That is, I would say, I think a realistic vision of what the future could look like. Again, that means if somebody else has already asked that question, you're going to be the second and third person. So that's unique. But if you want to, again, build a community, get people motivated to find something, work hard in identifying a unique question, because technology has your back. They'll provide the answer.
Yes, that's great. With those words, Frits, thank you so much for joining us today. And also, we're talking about community alliance, first from the alliance to community, to creating organizations, bringing people together professionally, now socially. I'm very glad that you have, you are ambassador and spreading our wings in various countries and talking about us to see that, ABWCI as an organization is growing. So I'm very happy, that you spoke about AI, and also specifically, there's a big discussion happening all across the world on ChatGPT. So I'm very happy that you brought that forward and we spoke about it. But thank you so much. We will, to our audience, we will meet again. We will bring a new, leader, a person, a professional, and our ambassador, and a country president, and professionals from various parts of the world, to see that sharing knowledge is important. More you listen, more you get ideas from, person like Frits, I think that it will be a better future for all of us. So signing off, thank you so much, and enjoy your afternoon and evening. So thank you. Thanks, Frits.
Thank you. My honor. My pleasure.
Thank you.